transportation team, Director of Global Engineering. We're going to go through a couple of questions with Marcus around TEchCon as well as sensors in the automotive space. Welcome, Marcus.
Emily, thank you very much.
Great having you. So before we get into sensors and automotive, first tell us what it's like to be here at TE. Give the people that are watching an idea of what it means for you.
Yeah, Emily, thank you. This is really our TE internal conference. So most of our brightest talents and best engineers are representing our latest innovations internally. Very open, very transparent. So we basically are able to share that information across all business units. And of course, it's also a great time in order to celebrate those talents, those great engineers, those great minds. So it's an event which we share once a year and which gives the technical community a great event, and it's also very welcome to demonstrate the latest innovations.
So what are you looking forward to most this week?
If you look to the broad range of TE's technology, then it's really interesting that even so, you should know all the innovations already. If you walk around the booths, if you talk to people, every time you see new things. So I'm looking forward to the unknown, the surprise. This is of course something which is very interesting for me, but of course it gives me a great opportunity to see something beyond my area of responsibility. So looking into the terminals and connectors area, miniaturization, high power terminals, infotainment, high bandwidth products. This is what is very related to sensors, because every sensor has a connector, every sensor has an interface. So it's kind of very interesting for me, that area.
Well, speaking about your area, can you tell us a little bit more about what you do and what your role is here?
Yeah, since there is a very, very strong growth inside of sensors, one of our main interests is to foster innovation, to have a very strong product roadmap in technology and new developments for designs and processes. So next to the executions of projects, the strategy is very important. So I'm responsible for developing that strategy within sensors and looking towards the to the expected acquisition of measurement specialties, and looking to the acquisitions that we already did, American Sensor Technology. This is the first opportunity for us to present as one sensor TE internally. So it brings together the people, it shows to the other TE colleagues our broad portfolio, our new technology, and it gives us a very good exposure.
So I know that's not quite closed, that measurement specialties acquisition, but can you just tell us a little bit more about what's exciting to you about that?
It's basically, if I would have to describe it in one sentence, is very interesting is the low overlap. Yeah, so it gives us an extremely broad technology, product portfolio, and of course the market access. TE is very strong in automotive. TE is very strong in position and speed sensing, current sensing, but basically that is basically, or that was limited until that expected acquisition. With that acquisition, if it comes, and everybody is expecting that it comes, then basically it would give us access to a market beyond automotive, industrial markets, medical markets. It would give us access to new technologies like humidity, piezo-resistive technologies, pressure technologies, temperature technologies. So we would be in a position to our customers to offer that incredible broad technology.
Yeah, I think we're all excited because it's going to bring so much more breadth to all of our industries. Talking a little bit about getting into sensors and where we are. So even in today's cars, we've got a number of sensors helping us become smarter, help our automobiles become smarter. How have sensors changed the current driving experience?
It dramatically changed our driving experience. Looking into a vehicle 10 years ago, you rarely would find sensors. Since that time, I would think most probably the most popular development was the was the anti-braking system and the stability control here. Any kind of new system that's being introduced requires a sensor. Whether it's lane departure warning, whether it's new transmission technologies, that systems do require a sensing of the status of the vehicle in a very advanced way. The sensors are connected in the architecture of the vehicle, so all of the systems have access to all of the sensors. That's done in a very efficient way. It's basically, if you look to an average vehicle, there are around 50 sensors. A premium vehicle even could come up with 100 sensors for each vehicle, which is not only a huge market for us, it also offers us a huge opportunity for new developments because of that a tremendous growth in that area.
Where do you think that some of that biggest growth is going to come from? You know, we're already at 100 in some of the premium vehicles. Where do you see that happening?
There are three mega trends in automotive. The first one is green. Car has become greener and it will even more become greener. Looking to the latest transmission technologies, a double clutch transmission is saving up to 10% versus an automatic transmission. So I think there will be a strong push for all the greener applications to make a vehicle more efficient. And the second strong pull will be from the safety area. It started with airbag. I mentioned the anti-braking system. Anything related to safety and, for example, active safety, cameras in a vehicle, weight sensing, position sensing, current sensing, anything which is related to safety will have a strong growth, and mostly because of the legal requirements coming up.
So what impact is TE having in that? So we've talked about a lot of sensors. Where do we play? How do we make an impact?
It's a very good question. I would divide it into a first part, which would be, like we say, yesterday with our current portfolio. We were very strong in terms of position and speed sensing, especially in applications around transmission, brake pedal, chassis. So anything in that area, I would say that we were a leading supplier for technologies. Customers came to us and tried to discuss their new architectures, their latest innovations, and asked us to overcome their challenges. Looking into the future, with that new acquisitions we made in AST and especially in MEAS, I would strongly expect there is basically no limitations in terms of applications. Anything which is related to humidity sensing, anti-fog, in wheel shield, temperature sensing, pressure sensing, of course, that would give us an additional push and, of course, a strong growth.
So having said all that, do you think that sensors are bringing us closer to a driverless car?
It will. It will. There are first prototypes on the street. We could also see that, for example, Google has started that. Other premium vehicle equipment manufacturer OEMs are coming up with prototype vehicles here. Self-driving cars is definitively something that will come. I'm looking at it from an efficiency and safety standpoint, because it will be a revolution in efficiency and safety. I'm looking on it also from a little bit from a passion side, because everyone who is passionate in automotive most probably is also passionate in driving a vehicle by himself. So I would not say that a self-driving car is something which comes at a one-step version. I'm pretty confident it will be an option, but you still will be allowed to drive your vehicle by your own.
So I take it then, based on what you're saying, this is something you're looking forward to?
I'm looking forward to from an engineering perspective, because I'm very interested in the technology. From a private base, I'm still passionate in driving my vehicle by myself. But of course, as I said, it will come, because passion is the one thing, safety and efficiency are much more important here.
So what implications do you see coming out of this? Either from a legal or standards perspective?
The legal side is very interesting, because the legal side requires that those systems have an extremely high safety level. So any system needs to be safety and failure safe. Yeah, this is very similar to the aerospace industry. But in general, this is something that you can solve if you have the right architecture, the right system behind, and that architecture basically will enable a system to be failure-free. It will be redundant. So ASIL level D most probably will be a mandatory system in that architecture. Yeah, systems will be very smart in introducing that self-driving into the vehicle.
So what other barriers do you see that we need to get through before we're ready for this?
I think the system needs to be more in a pilot phase, because developing a system is one thing. Making sure that any potential impact or any potential virtually thinkable event really is being captured and catched by the system. I think that requires a certain time, and I would guess it will take us another 5 to 6, maybe 8 years until you really can buy a vehicle that under certain conditions is able to drive itself.
So what would you say, we talked a little bit about barriers there, are some of the biggest opportunities, things that we can exploit and take to greater levels so that we can use to help propel us forward?
For the self-driving or in general?
For self-driving.
I think a self-driving vehicle most probably is the most safe vehicle that you could ever use on a street, because the system basically detects any potential impact from the side. It's not, you could completely excuse human errors, which is the main criteria and the main root cause for an accident on today's street. So safety is an aspect which is very important, and which is one of the main criteria why people would be interested in buying such a car. Efficiency might be a secondary aspect. The way how to drive a vehicle is depending on your own driving style. If you have the system, if you have your vehicle driving it, it would drive itself in the most efficient way and save fuel, and of course would avoid would less impact waste and pollution to the environment.
So, getting away from this a little bit, talking about your team. So you've got a team that's global. So tell us a little bit about how you come together as a global team to work on these types of things.
The team is based on a regional structure. So we have regional teams because we believe it's very important to be close to the customer. It's very important to be close to the manufacturing area. So our regional teams do really have the competence in order to develop products close to the customer. On top of that, we have a global structure, a global organization. That global organization enables the regional teams, first of all, to adapt on the latest technologies. So a transfer of new technology is very easy in that global organization. And secondly, whenever there is a challenge for those teams, whenever there is a problem that they have to deal with, that global structure helps them to overcome and solve the technical problems.
So kind of in that same line of questioning, we talked a little bit about your team, but where are some great ways that you've been able to work with cross-functional teams within TE? Whether it be in our HEMS team, maybe infotainment, etc.
In sensors, we basically have a very strong interface to the connector area. Every sensor is connected. That's why sensor perfectly fits into the TE product portfolio. So we have the terminals, we have the connectors, we have the cables. Around 30% of our sensors we ship with a complete cable assembly. So that really helps us to adapt on that additional value that we offer to the customer. And the customer then has a one-stop shopping solution. So whenever there is a challenge around how to connect the sensor, we got colleagues from our outside teams, from our outside developments, that we can pull into that development and basically extend the competence just as we would like to do it.
So we talked a little bit about the recent acquisitions, and what other ways has TE increased its investment in sensors?
Sensors has a very strong growth outside there in the market because of that needs of new systems to adapt in sensors. So sensors gives that huge opportunity for additional business growth. On the other side, because of the global footprint and the customer intimacy that TE has, it's also very easy for TE to offer to the customers that additional portfolio of sensors, whether it's in the product lines. So by extending the product lines gives us additional strength and growth, but also going to new markets and new industries is a great lever for us to increase the growth.
Thank you. So we've been taking questions from the floor tonight as well as the social. So we have a question that came in from one of our own participants right out here. We talked a little bit about today's cars and the driving experience. Can you tell us a little bit more about how sensors will change the driving experience in the future?
It's a very good question. If I would know it 100%, I think it would be a great deal for me to make money. Maybe let me answer that question because it's a very good question by a very simple example. The latest vehicle offers advanced sensor features like keyless entry. So whenever you approach a vehicle, automatically the door unlocks. You can start the engine without using the keys. So there are unlimited ways how you would basically further develop your vehicle and implement sensors into it. In general, I think still the mega trends are driving that new developments, which is making a vehicle more greener, more safer, more comfortable. Yeah. So anything which is related to that you just enter your vehicle and you feel like being at home. You don't have to care about safety. You don't have to care about driving more efficient. If the car makes it by itself, it makes the car more attractive, and people would just prefer to drive in that modern kind of vehicle.
So we talked a little bit about my car. So I drive a 2012 Super. Tell me a little bit about what I've got going on in my car right now.
You most likely would have that between 50 and 100 sensors inside. Most likely you wouldn't recognize that you have a sensor because a sensor is something which is hidden in the car. And on the other side, that vehicle, if I remember correctly, basically is one of the latest ones who already do offer latest advanced technologies like keyless entry, like an advanced air conditioning system where you don't have any fog on the windscreen, so temperature and humidity sensing is part of that architecture already.
Great. Well, I'm excited about it. Thank you for sharing your time with us tonight. Hopefully everybody watching has learned a little bit as well. We'll let Marcus get back to the event. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Emily.
Thank you.
See you.
See ya.